This is Get Inspired with Dr. Barb Show. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Barb Vocatus, and welcome to another episode of Get Inspired with Dr. Barb. We always have incredible guests whose expertise, knowledge can really change the education really for better. But today we have an extra special guest because I've known her for some time. I think quite a few years, and we've been working together also for some time, including the third partner who's on the floor right now because she's a dog. So that's why she's on the floor. But my guest today is Lucinda, and
Thank you for having me on your show. I'm really
of
excited about
course,
it. Really excited about it. I've been looking forward to this.
you're welcome. I wanted to say that how long we've been working together, but I'm not so sure now. It's been maybe 5 years or something like that. I'm not sure.
At least 5 years, yeah. I've lost track too. We've just been having a lot of fun. We lost track, right?
Exactly. So when you're having fun, you tend to lose track. Exactly, which is a good thing. And is there anything that you would like to add as far as your background? Because you are a teacher, but there is some other things you're doing as well, if you would like to add to it.
You mean how I started to become a teacher?
Well, that would be great. Everybody would love to hear the story because I think the story is pretty cool how you started. And
Yeah, so I started out as a teacher's aide in another school. I was teacher's aide for 5 years, and the educators I worked with said to me, "You need to be a teacher." So okay. I had my son. He was young, so I applied to some colleges, which happens to be one of the colleges that you're the professor at. But I
yeah,
didn't know you back then. I applied at a few colleges, got accepted to them, and I had to make my choice. So I chose Oneonta. Couldn't move there, so I drove 200 miles a day to commute back and forth because I was determined to be a teacher. So, long story short, became a teacher, and at the time there wasn't a teacher shortage. There was a lot of teachers, and it was hard to find a job. So
yeah.
I was substituting and everything, and I substituted in Galway where I work, and I ended up getting a job there. Started out as a fourth grade teacher, and then the third grade teacher retired, so I stepped into that position because I didn't really care what I taught as long as I was working with kids. I taught that for at least 13 years, and that's how I met you. That's when I met you. Walking
Exactly.
down the hall that day. You were walking down the hall with Carmel, and being a lover of animals, I peeked my head out and said, "I see you walking. I see you here all the time, walking down the hall. What are you doing here? Like, what are you doing with your dog?"
Yeah,
And you told me about being a therapy. Carmel was a therapy dog, and I asked you, "How can I get involved in this?" And that's when it all started. Yep, the fun
exactly.
began.
And I'm thinking with Carmel, I've been going to the school for 7 years. It's going to be 7 years at the end of this year, school year. So, yeah, so we've known each other for 5 or 6 years. Doesn't
Yeah,
even matter.
yeah.
That's really awesome. But then, as we all remember, COVID hit us all. And then we did some cool and different, definitely different therapy visits online, right? Through the
Oh yeah.
computer with children. So that was really awesome too, even though it was different, but it still impacted kids in certain ways and their parents even too, because they were next to their computers.
Yeah, we actually had therapy sessions with Carmel.
Yeah.
The kids would talk to Carmel, and it would keep the kids at ease. It was a beautiful thing. It really helped them during COVID.
Exactly. And then after COVID, when we eventually came back to school, I came back with Carmel. Something happened that made us think of some other ways of involving Carmel in this work, right?
Oh yeah.
Let's think about it. What happened? How we started doing something different.
Well, it started that Carmel came in, when I was in third grade, Carmel came in and just at first it was going to be, Carmel just come in, wander around the room, let the kids pet her,
Yeah.
and just have Carmel make them feel at ease and everything. And then it just blossomed. It just blossomed. We were doing some writing in class, and we had this little idea that you would read your book and talk about
Yeah.
editing and writing books and illustrating. I don't know if you want to speak on that behalf of your book, but it blossomed from the kids. I had kids that didn't want to read their books, didn't want to write, didn't want to illustrate. They were just extremely shy or just didn't want to do anything. And with what we did with Carmel coming in, they came out of their shell. And we had kids that said, I want to write books in the future. I want to write more. When can we write more? So,
Yeah, this was really powerful moment because I remember we were both kind of like, well, surprised, right? That this
yeah,
was happening. We
yeah.
didn't know that anything will happen like that. And I remember even before I read the book to them, which is not the one that's visible here, it's the one that I don't have to show right now, but and the one that I self-published was my first book, really about our journey to becoming therapy dog team. It's called From Unruly to Therapy Dog. But I remember before doing the activity with the book, that was in school, there was a theme on kindness,
Kindness.
on
Yep.
being kind and how you are, what do you do to be kind, right?
Yep.
So a lot of elementary schools, especially in younger grades, I don't know, second grade, all the way up to fifth grade probably,
Mm-hmm.
they do these kind of themes like kindness. And they learn in some sense, and probably they learn a little bit more about kindness, but the question is really, do they become kind just from learning? It depends how you learn, right? It just
Yep.
all depends how you learn. So I remember that you had this idea, wow, so we have the theme of kindness going on here. Why don't we include Carmel in that theme? Somehow, sometimes when we have those ideas, it starts with you or with me, but then it just all meshed together.
Yep.
So that's how it. That's not to, yeah. Right now we have ideas. I don't know, growing usually in Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. So actually, if we were going to like give a tip to therapy dog teams and teachers, they should do that. They should once in a while just get together, go to a little coffee shop, right?
Yep.
And just to have some fun, a little bit of gossip, a little bit of venting. And after that, you're like, oh, wait a minute, let's have an idea, right? What are we
Oh
doing
yeah.
next
And
week?
you have to be open too. You have to be very open and be
Yeah.
willing to try new things in the classroom, which I am. It's exciting.
You are very open. You are a very different teacher from maybe majority of teachers. It's hard to tell. I don't run statistics, but you are different. You are open, but when you think about it, that's what every teacher should be like that because teaching is about being open and trying different things. I mean, if you have kids who don't write, who don't read, and you've tried everything you've already learned and it doesn't work, then what do, right? You just try
Bring
something
Carmel in.
else.
Bring Carmel in.
Exactly. You're looking for therapy animals. There's something magic about them, sure. So I remember that we thought about it, asking kids like, "Hey, you already know Carmel quite a bit because she comes here every week, just once a week. That's enough. And can you tell us how Carmel shows that she's a kind dog?"
Yep.
And they were all raising hands and everybody wanted to speak about that, right? How Carmel shows she's a kind dog. And I remember that you told me after that, some time after, that it's interesting to see how if you ask questions about Carmel, about the dog that they like or love even, that all the kids want to participate. Like it doesn't matter if they're shy or not, they all want to participate because they all have something to say about Carmel,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
That was.
they're excited about the visits, and they're excited about putting their input into, like when we started talking about writing the book, having them write a book.
Yeah.
You started talking about the different parts of the book that you had to go through when you wrote your book. It opened them up. They were like, "Well, I can do that. I can talk about this," and they wanted to illustrate things, which was interesting because you would talk about certain parts of the book and kindness and things like that. Then you would have them illustrate. Sometimes you had them close their eyes and just think about things, and then you would have them illustrate what they saw in their brain. And it was interesting because a lot of that came out in their books that they wrote, and it was
Because that's how we started, right? I was reading the book
yeah.
and only for the purpose to help them practice this strategy of visualization, right?
Yep.
So I was reading a scene from the book, and they closed the eyes and we asked them to visualize. And I remember when they all closed the eyes, because I checked, I made
Yeah.
sure that I checked, and everybody just closed their eyes. They were like very serious. And after that, they were speaking about what they saw when they closed the eyes, and they were coming up with all kinds of ideas, even beyond what was actually in the book, which was very, very interesting. And that's what started this project of reading the books, because then I continued reading the books. And I remember one time when I came and something was going on in the classroom. And I remember when you said, there is a lot of chaos today. Let's just do regular therapy dog visit with no literacy activities. And I remember where kids were saying, wait a minute, we just want to keep doing visualization with Carmel.
Yep.
It was really funny. And then yes, when I kept reading the book and they started, it kind of sparked their interest. Like, how is this that I wrote the book? Like, how do you write a book?
Yep.
Because here they see this person who comes with the dog that they love, and she published the book. So how do you do it, right? And I wasn't the teacher, so I was telling her about how you publish the book. It's not that hard. So they were like, well, then we want to do that too.
Yeah. You and I were like, let's go with it. Let's go with it because it they all wanted to do it. It wasn't the
Exactly.
reluctant children that didn't like to write and didn't like to participate or anything like that. They wanted to participate. So we said, we just looked at each other and we were like, sure, let's go with it. So that's when it started.
Exactly. And do you remember any moments of like I don't know, transformation, something that you've seen? There were a lot of moments like that, I'm sure, but something that you really remember very well as far as how these visits impacted kids, and some of these things you saw when we were not there, because we were the only ones a week, but there you were talking about us and children
Yeah.
were talking about us too, even when we are not there. So anything impactful that you would like to mention, that would be great.
Well, one thing that just came to mind just now, as you know, I taught third grade for many, many years, and then I went to second and I did the virtual and all that through COVID and everything. And now I'm in fifth grade. This year
Yes.
I'm in fifth grade. Well, it was interesting. This was very powerful to me. It was interesting to see the kids that I had when this all started, I have as fifth graders now. And many of them. I don't have all of them, but when they
Yes.
actually wrote their own books, which we haven't talked about that yet, um, they ended up writing their own books, which some of the illustrations are in the book that we have. It's interesting because I have Carmel's cutout in the classroom, so she's always with us. But the kids that I had back then that I have in fifth grade now, they were like, we had Carmel and we wrote a book and we were in Miss V's and Miss O's book and it was so fun and I hope you guys get to do this too. Now that we're in fifth grade, and it was just so exciting to hear the impact that back then when they were in the younger grades, the impact that it made on them that were with them again in fifth grade. I mean, this is like we're talking 3 years later, and it's still such a powerful thing for them that they actually got to go through and learn how to write a book. And have Carmel come into the classroom and participate in our lessons. And we'll get into that a little bit, some of the lessons that we've done. But that just came to my mind right now, how powerful that was. That the kids were telling the other kids that didn't have that opportunity to experience back then what I have like 5 or 6 of the kids in my class from second and third grade.
Yeah.
They're in fifth grade with me now. And that was just powerful to hear them talk to the other kids about how special it was that they had Carmel as a therapy dog, and you as well come into the classroom and work with our class. And we had
This is
lessons and things. So that was extremely powerful to me.
this is really powerful. And I mean, we were not in the class at that time, but this is
Yeah,
really super cool because you have a mix of kids. Some
yeah,
had Carmel 3 years ago, some did not.
yeah.
And those who had her were really filling in, right? The other kids. You'll see how much fun you're going to have. We had Carmel and they were telling them all about it. That is really, really cool. Like this impact lasting years, right? Not just months.
Well, it was funny because I said to them, they saw Carmel's cutout because I keep it.
Yeah.
You have that Carmel cutout. It's a life size, the life size cutout, and I
Yeah.
always keep it up in my room. And I told them they saw that cutout and they were like, "Oh, we missed Carmel." And I said, "Well, guess what? Carmel's coming to our class this year." And the looks on their faces were priceless. They were
Wow.
so excited that Carmel was coming. And the other kids didn't really understand because they didn't have that opportunity. They weren't in my classes years before. But the kids that had been in my class and now they were in my class again, they knew what was coming. They knew that we were going to be having fun and we were going to be having Carmel involved in our lessons, and it was just priceless. It
So
almost made me cry because it really that showed how impactful it was.
So you told them that Carmel's going to come, and then you kind of saw two reactions. Reaction from kids who had Carmel 3 years ago, how they were because they knew what that would mean, and
Yep.
then the other ones were kind of like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, that's when the conversation started, and I let them go with it. The kids that hadn't been with me in the past, they were like, well, what do you mean?" And at first, they were like, "It's just a dog that comes in," and the other kids were like, "Oh, no, 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 she's not just a dog. She has like powers or something." So, and they
That
do.
is
They think she
so
has magical powers.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear that before. I
I
was like,
I
"What do you
totally forgot
mean?"
to tell you that. Yeah, I
It's
should
like,
have
"Why are
told
you
you.
so excited? It's just a dog is gonna come."
Yeah. But no, they were like, "No, Carmel helps us. You wait." That's what they were saying, things like that. So,
You worried. Carmel actually is a dog that will help us. This is just so very cool. Yeah. And it's so much fun to hear it right on the podcast. And actually, during this conversation, we've mentioned several activities that we have done. So that's already quite a bit. But if you would like to mention what we've been doing in fifth grade, that would be really cool. Like the butter activity, that would be great.
okay. Well, we never really did anything with science, so we met at Starbucks and we had our conversation, and it
Yeah.
just came to us as we were sitting there having our tea. We were studying matter, and I wanted to somehow show the kids how you can turn a liquid into a solid because we were studying matter. And you and I were talking while we were having our tea, and it turned into talking about yak bones. It
Yeah.
turned into and how yak bones, because the yak bones are what Carmel eats, and it's a treat for Carmel. So we were kind of like, I was more like this, not you, because you pretty much knew, but how are yak bones made? So we kind of researched it, and we thought it would be cool to talk to the kids about how yak bones are made, how they turn from a liquid. They could take the yak milk. First, the kids had to know what a yak was. Some of them
Yeah.
did. They even had a stuffed animal with them, remember?
Yes. Yeah. It was just like, wait a minute, I have a stuffed yuck. I'm like, what?
Yeah, we didn't even know she had it. She had a stuffed yak in her locker. So it was pretty weird laughing. And she had these little horn things too, remember? She She had the
Yep.
little things.
Yep.
But anyways, anyways, we did a whole lesson on Carmel's yak bones, and you brought in an actual yak bone so the kids could see it, and we had videos and all kinds of stuff. And with that, we came up with the idea, well, why can't the kids make butter? If they can make yak bones, how could we turn a liquid into a solid? So we came up with the idea for the kids to actually make their own butter. And they did.
Yeah.
And they had so much fun. It was one of the most powerful things. I mean, Carmel got involved in it.
And we know how, I mean, she was just mingling and helping kids and licking a little bit of butter that spilled on the carpet. And it was just, and I remember kids shaking the jars
Uh,
with the cream to make butter and Carmel observing everything. It was just such a dynamic project, but really, I mean, dynamic, scientific.
yep,
And yes, it started with the investigating how those dog cheese bones are made. And then we were thinking, is there anything we can have kids make something like that that you could kind of observe how matters change, right? From one type to
yep.
another. So butter was just kind of the easiest way to think about it. Although at that time, I had no idea how you can make butter in the jar.
Yeah, and it was interesting because at the end remember we had the Italian bread, the fresh
Yeah.
Italian bread, and the kids actually got to, after they made the butter, they'd come up, they would look at Carmel and they'd say, Carmel, did I shake it enough? Like,
Yeah.
like Carmel knew. So, and Carmel would just kind of wander around because that's who Carmel
Yeah.
is. She's a little sweetie. And I would say to him, "Oh, Carmel doesn't think that you shook it enough because it wasn't real solid." So they're shaking away, and then they had
Mm,
the butter on the bread, and Carmel got to try a little bit as well. She got to have a little piece. We have a lot of pictures of that.
yeah.
But another powerful thing was that came from that lesson, and it all started with the cheese bone from the yak milk. Um, is my kids
Yeah.
came in. That was on a Friday that we did that. My kids came in on a Monday. Not all of them. Some of them came in and said, Miss O, I made real butter with my family over the weekend. And that was awesome. That was
Yeah.
just, that's teaching right there. It's real life stuff. And they actually used the butter for their breakfast. And it was exciting to hear that they actually took what they learned in school and the excitement that they had for that. They took it home and they did it with their family. So that was awesome.
This is such a full circle. You think about it. Started in second grade, then the kids get Carmel in the fifth grade.
Yep.
Here we think about doing this butter project, and then they taking all this learning they did to their homes with their parents. I mean, this is really like the most powerful education you can think about, right?
Yep.
And they learning how you can make your own butter, and they learning how the one in the store doesn't really taste that great.
Yeah, they said it tasted their butter that they made tasted better than the butter that they buy in the store. So it was
Exactly.
amazing. And then they wanted to write about it. Then they wanted to write about what they did. So
Yep.
then they wrote, and it was amazing what they wrote. They wrote where it started. They learned about the cheese bone and they how they got the yak milk and the process that they had
Yeah.
to go through to make the yak the cheese bone, and then how that went into us making butter. And remember, then they read everything. They read them all to the class. They wanted to come up and present to the class what they learned, and that's learning right there.
You're right. It's very striking how, and like what you said, they wanted to write about it then, and they wanted to present it. This is something it was their lived experience.
Yeah.
They've experienced it, and Carmel participated in it. And I just posted a video on social media from a little bit different. Well, they were reading, but Carmel was picking the papers, who's going
Oh
through
yes, yes, yes.
paper, and they reading, but they're Then Carmel comes around too. So one of the boys just reading his paper at the same time petting Carmel.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such a cool climate, classroom climate really you can do if you can just collaborate a little bit between the teacher and therapy dog team, and you can do a lot of fun things, and it can result in so much learning. But you have to release that, you have to, I don't know, you have to release that freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody has some freedom, I think, and some courage to try something new. It's just that it's not released. Like, you know how to release it.
They have to be willing to give up their classroom a little bit. And I do. Like when you come in, I'm like,
Hmm.
it's not just my classroom, it's your classroom. I mean, you know, I mean, even when I do all my bulletin boards, you and Carmel are on my bulletin board.
This is
You know that.
totally, this, I know that this is totally amazing, because normally if you come to the classroom as the therapy dog team, I mean, you're going to be welcomed and everything, but you're doing something different. The therapy dog team is a part of the classroom family, and you welcome us. You welcome us like teacher assistant, right?
Yeah.
Not a therapy dog team, but here come our friends, teacher assistants. We're going to be doing things together, and when you post something on your bulletin boards with children's name, we are there too.
Yeah.
So this is a totally different idea really about how you can collaborate with the therapy dog team, and the other way, how therapy dog team can collaborate with the teacher.
Yep.
And I know that in the therapy dog community, there's always these questions like, how can you do it? Like, how can you do more activities with the teacher? I'm going to have another therapy dog team who is great and the teacher together on the podcast that will be talking about how they started the collaboration, what they do. But do you think you could give any tips to both teachers how to be open with this, how to start if they're afraid of like doing anything at the larger scale? And we don't. I mean, we are there only once a week for like 30 to 40 minutes. So it's not like you give up a lot of classroom time. So if you have any tips for teachers and also for therapy dog teams who feel that we can have more impact, but we don't know how to approach the teacher.
Well, I do have to say that the few times that something came up, either I had to be out or you had to be at the college and you couldn't come, the kids were like, "No, they're not coming. Like, when are they coming?" Like, they they look forward to it. Like,
Yeah.
so I do have to put that part in there. But getting back to what you were saying, but the biggest thing I have to say is be flexible. Be very flexible. Be willing to whatever subject you're teaching, whatever you're teaching in that subject. We've done stuff for anywhere from math, social studies,
Yeah.
ELA. We just did this with science. Just be open to try something. You're just trying it. It's not kids are flexible. They'll have fun with it. They'll laugh. And just be willing to give up some of your classroom
Yeah.
and let them take part in what you're doing. I look at you as an equal. I don't look at you as like an assistant. I look at when you come in my classroom, I look at it as our classroom at that time and just get together like you said before, just get together, have coffee, laugh. It's amazing what comes out when you're just getting together for coffee. And then you talk
Seriously.
about how great things went with our lesson, or when Carmel came in, what happened, and it triggers new things in your head. And then you laugh about it, and then you start thinking about other things. I would just say be willing to try anything. Be willing, try anything. If it's a flop, then it's a flop. I mean, not that ours has
Yeah.
been any flops. We haven't had any flops, but we've had a lot of laughs.
Well, somehow we didn't have any flops
No, we haven't.
because, and I wonder why. I think it's because if you involve the therapy dog, it's actually an interesting question. If you involve the therapy dog in any way that's a little bit more than classic I don't know, dog is sitting or laying down, kids are reading to the dog, or dog is just going around and kids are learning, but the dog is not really involved in learning in any way. So if you do anything more, I mean, kids are happy when the dog is there, no matter what's happening, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. But when you engage then this dog in a little bit more fun, and so the children see that the dog actually participates in their learning, so they kind of like all learning together. It's a very interesting concept. Then it does create more fun on top of the fun that they already had somehow.
Yeah, I do have to. I do want you to mention because the way you tell it is amazing. When this is how powerful Carmel is in my classroom. At the end of one of our lessons, I believe it was our Native American lesson where we were talking about that. Some of the kids were getting ready to go home and they had their instruments. You remember that?
Yeah, I
This is
do
how
know.
powerful Carmel is to my students. So, do you want to tell them about this?
If you want to tell them, go ahead.
Well, Barb and Carmel were my kids were getting ready to go home at the end of the day because Barb usually comes. That's my science time at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and they were getting their instruments together because a lot of them are in band and things like that or take private lessons at school. And they wanted Carmel to come over to see the flute, the saxophone. They
Yeah.
literally wanted Carmel to see their instrument. It was like they were talking to like a human being. And I mean, I don't know what they thought Carmel was going to do, play the instrument or what, but it was amazing. I mean, they came right over to you, and Carmel was sniffing the instrument, and that was huge for them too. They were like, Carmel likes my instrument. Carmel likes the instrument I'm playing. So they think a lot. They think a lot of therapy teams, and it's very important to have them in the classroom.
I still think about this because I would think that at the fifth grade level, at this age, the girls would not do something like that. And
Yeah,
yet they did.
yeah,
And they came to ask, they didn't come to ask, can we show you our instruments? Can we show Carmel our instruments?
exactly.
And you would not think about that and that they would do it being that they are in fifth grade, but they did it.
Yeah, they did. They were all excited that Carmel was sniffing their instruments and that to them that meant that Carmel loved the instrument that they were playing. I mean,
Yeah.
Carmel is a big piece of my fifth grade classroom, and I think a therapy dog team could be part of any classroom.
I think so too, because sometimes you hear voices, well, not in high school. We are here busy. This is serious stuff going on. We have quick periods. There is no time for therapy dogs. I don't agree with that.
I don't either.
I
Nope.
don't know what kind of thinking that is. It's kind of a little bit strange to me because I think, if anything, based on my experiences too, high school is actually extremely stressful for
Yeah,
kids. So
yeah,
what does that tell us, right? It tells us that those therapy dogs, yeah, maybe they will not be included in a way that we include Carmel now, maybe in a little bit different way, in a more serious way,
yeah, yeah,
I guess. Although who says that in high school you can't laugh because it has to be serious? I don't know about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I believe that Carmel could help a lot of kids in the high school as well. Like you said,
Yeah,
it's extremely stressful. There's a
it is.
lot of depression these days. I don't know what's going on with that, but when you have when you have a therapy dog, they just sense when kids are sad. They
They
sense.
do.
I mean, you remember the child that I had in third grade. He wouldn't talk to anybody. He sat in the back of the room. He wouldn't talk. I mean, I tried. It was like, oh my gosh, I tried
Yeah,
everything to get him to come out, and just talk, and he won. And when Carmel came in, he whispered to Carmel, "I love you, Carmel. I know you listen to me." And that was powerful. And that could be a lot with high school kids that are struggling emotionally, with depression, with anything. They might
yeah.
just think that an animal that could save that person. So
Yeah, I agree. And just that's why we're doing this. That's why we are spreading this awareness. And that's why I'm also doing that podcast too, because
Yeah.
these ideas should be out there more. So everybody understands that. And also, I think if parents knew about the impact
Yes,
more, they could be more effective as far as advocating for this practice with their school districts, with principal, if they knew more about it. But because they
absolutely.
don't, then nobody demands this practice to take place in school. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember the principal in my school. She's wonderful. The kids were presenting in the classroom, remember? And she stopped in and you were there.
Yeah.
And she was like, this is wonderful because they're not aware of how powerful this can be. I mean, it's just in most people's heads that if therapy dog comes in, like you said, they're just going to sit and they're going to read, which is wonderful. That's wonderful to read with the kids, but there's so much more that can happen um, in a classroom. I think every classroom should have a therapy team. I mean, it has done wonders in my whether I'm teaching second grade, third grade, fifth grade. It's
Yeah.
wonders for my students.
Thank you so much. This was such a powerful ending to our episode. If the audience would like to follow you on social media, what would be the best way to connect with you if anybody had a question and things like that?
They can connect with me through my Hotmail account. Yeah, they can connect right directly to me if they want to my Hotmail account.
And you are also on Instagram. So
Instagram as well. Yes, yes.
yep.
Yep, or you
So
can contact me right through school if you want. I mean, do you want me to? How are we going to do that? Just
we will discuss a little bit later together what exactly links you would like in the show notes because it is public and what
okay.
would be the best ways to connect with you, and then I include those links in the show notes,
That's
so we
awesome.
will work it out. And for now, we want to really thank our wonderful audience for being with us today, for listening to this incredible conversation. And we would like to ask you to follow Get Inspired with Dr. Barb show and share these wonderful ideas with others, especially with parents, teachers, administrators, really anybody who cares about education. Because once we understand, all of us understand the impact that responsible inclusion of therapy animals can have on children. Uh, I mean, we're going to be a healthier nation. That's
Absolutely.
what we should seriously say. So, thank you so much, Lucinda. It was such an honor to have you on the show. Thank you, everybody. Follow the show and let us know what you think about this episode.
Thank you for inviting me. Have a great day.
This is Get Inspired with Dr.